Hello and welcome to Capacity TV. My name is Natalie Bannerman, Deputy Editor at Capacity Media. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Frédéric Schepens, Group Executive and CEO of MTN GlobalConnect. Frédéric, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's a real honor to be part again of Capacity Media's sessions, which is always very, very fun.
Absolutely. So we're going to dive right in because, MTN GlobalConnect has had a really positive and I think fair to say busy 2020, kind of improving your international wholesale mobility business as well as its international fixed connectivity business by more than 48% last year. How has MTN GlobalConnect managed to kind of achieve this in such a short space of time?
Yeah, well, the team did really, really great. And I'm very fortunate to be, with such a fantastic team. We go with the belief that everybody deserves the benefits of a connected modern life in Africa. And I think that fuels really us burning the midnight oil and really reconfirming the leading role as an African wholesale infrastructure and service provider. So we think that our data network are the veins of the African socio and economic lives. Our Pan-African 85,000 proprietary network is chosen as the carrier by a majority of the MNO in Africa's and the OTTs. So it's really the solution of choice and the entry door towards the African continent. So we think that also from a mobility perspective, we're expanding super rapidly. You have to understand that we consolidated most of all the activities from the MTN Group internationally into GlobalConnect, and we created some fantastic new state-of-the-art platform which we are using as a service. So the PaaS network we have is really robust. And if you talk about roaming, which we are doing, if we talk about interconnect, messaging, signaling, and voice, they're all carried under what we call the Yellow Connect hubs. Now, so we've got really a setup which is also very interesting. We've got local, regional, and global presence for the digital movers and shakers, if we call them, to give them the best connectivity needs.
So then moving on to our next question then, what makes MTN GlobalConnect kind of best placed to partner businesses and content providers, wanting to build out their presence in Africa? Because as we know, Africa, holds a real opportunity in the kind of connectivity and infrastructure space.
Yeah, so we really, our operating model is pretty straightforward. We act as a partner, facilitating access and the entry door in Africa to a single point, which works quite well. Before we have various entry points into about 22 of our operations, we consolidated all of that. And this doorway actually gives immediate access not only to the MTN Group as the largest mobile operator and digital and fintech player in Africa, but with a single SLA, with a single contract, we do cover the entire continent and certainly our mobile operating companies. So we've got one of the largest, if not the largest, fiber network, which we're constantly expanding. You see, the big difference with us is we eat our own dog food and we carry all the businesses of our own operations on that network. So it needs to be perfect. It needs to be the highest quality possible. And we are also evolving as we speak in a total open access model. And now that creates quite a lot of close cooperation and partnerships in an agile way to create really win-win. Before we were building that network just for our own, now we're really opening up to all third parties across the continent and in the world. Also, our latest mobile technology hubs really easily are scalable. The messaging, the voice, the roaming gives us a wealth of innovation also, which we can put on top and which is future-proof for everyone accessing the continent.
Absolutely, yeah. it's interesting that you mentioned open access, because I think that's the way forward kind of across the industry as a whole. But that's another conversation for another time. So I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point. But carrying on from that conversation, then I think partnerships really kind of are at the heart of what MTN GlobalConnect is doing at the moment, and you've forged a number of them across the continent, and one of which, as we know, is the To Africa subsea cable. Massive project, massive opportunity. How will this system in particular augment MTN GlobalConnect's existing infrastructure assets in the region?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Thanks, Natalie. I mean, we really invest where we need to go and where we need to grow. You have to understand that Africa, the continent, is massive. I mean, you can fit in the US, you can fit in Europe, majority of Asia into that continent.
Yeah.
So we've invested in more than 15 submarine cables around Africa, and of which the latest is the To Africa one, as you mentioned, and which will be built and will be ready for services in 2023 and 2024 on the east and the west coast. So MTN GlobalConnect was one of the initial, let's say, founding parties of that cable, and we're really proud to help and expand that. I mean, we are landing 4 landing stations for the cable. We are also stitching it up to our massive infrastructure fiber in the ground to build additional redundancy, resiliency, especially into our east coast to west coast cables in the ground. We're putting in 3 various locations. So we significantly are behind actually in Africa compared to a lot of the other continents. But I mean, we're trying to catch up with these investments. We are also making sure that we also grow the existing cable systems, which are getting more and more saturated. So the new cable, the To Africa cable, is certainly welcome news for the continent, because I mean, these are the arteries connecting also to the rest of the world. So it's quite a big project. I mean, the teams are working super hard with the To Africa team to make it happen in the coming months and years, where there's about, I think, over 8 terabytes of capacity, which will be lit up, which is quite massive.
Absolutely. And on a personal note, I'm a huge fan of the subsea space, so this project is very exciting for me, and I'm more than sure we'll be catching up with you on that, as we get closer to that go live date. Okay, well then also, kind of speaking of, the ambitions and I suppose the strategy of what MTN GlobalConnect is working on, how is the company gearing up to reach its Ambition 2025 goals? And, in tandem to that, how has the pandemic kind of brought those goals into focus? Because I can imagine that there's been some influence there.
Well, the disadvantages on everything and disadvantages on everything, and the pandemic really is starting, hopefully, to become an endemic. But we learned quite a few things about that. And as a young startup within this massive group, we started from the start to be extremely agile and lean compared to our fellow suppliers, competitors, customers, if I may call them like that. We've been driving this in an extremely agile, entrepreneurial way, which is, I mean, I'm really proud of the team of doing that. So in our Ambition 2025, we are going even further. So on the mobility, we will continue the platform as a services, let's say, trajectory, where our latest state-of-the-art platforms are really fueling the interconnect, the messaging. We did some massive long-term contractual agreements with major OTTs in order to cater for all of their messages onto our networks. We are continuing to grow the voice business, which is still working extremely well with super high quality in Africa. And the same is also with the roaming enablement, where we did see quite a bit of pickup compared to 2022. We might not be completely at the level of 2019 from a roaming perspective, but from a data perspective, we already overachieved that, or we are higher than what we got in certain months already. So it's stabilizing and it's growing also. And of course, the demographic, let's say, boost on the African continent is certainly also one of the advantages. So our goals is really to drive and to continue also from a fixed connectivity perspective, building more than 135,000 kilometers of fiber in that footprint. We are investing over or about $500 million capex in order to enable that. We are also planning to roll out aggressively in 7 identified countries, massively fiber. These are Kenya, Uganda, Nigeria, Ghana, Ivory Coast, SA, and also Zambia. I mean, Zambia is one of our first initial success stories where we really drove thousands of kilometers of fiber even already last year. And we've got this saying in Africa, I mean, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And this is really the spirit of MTN GlobalConnect. We're here to partner, we're there together, and we have a mission on the African continent.
Yeah, absolutely. I am familiar with that saying, and it is one of my favorites. So yeah, I'm completely with you. So then if I, with not wanting you to repeat yourself, but maybe to focus then in on what the kind of your strategic goals are for the next 12 months, because, Ambition 2025 is a long project, To Africa is a long project, but, in the short term, what are your priorities?
So, I mean, our priorities is continuing, as I was just mentioning, focusing on our expansion plans, on the fiber. We prepare ourselves to increase it with 59% in that plan also. We're also engaging a lot of our local stakeholders, where we are setting up about 7 fiber companies. So what is quite interesting is that in our game, in order to continue the open access model, we decided, and that's been announced already in the capital markets, that we will separate structurally the fiber assets from our mobile operations and put them in MTN GlobalConnect, where we're gonna run it as an open access model. We certainly will continue also our east-west coast connectivity, where we're going to stitch up and solidify our fiber rings we have in Africa, and grow that substantially in the coming months and years. And all of that, I mean, we continue that everybody deserves. And we really believe that a digital connected life on the continent, and we see that as one of our key missions to drive that.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, if you can believe it, that was my last question. I think I could probably talk to you for a while about some of those, picking up certain points that you mentioned. I think the journalist in me is dying to ask more, but I'm not going to take any more of your time. Frédéric, thank you so much for joining us. I think we'll certainly be in touch about some of those interesting projects, and thank you for your time.
Well, thank you so much, Natalie, also for having me, and thank you also for the Capacity Media team to continue the journey with us also, because it's been a journey for a couple of years ago already, and it's really great to have you.